So, welcome everyone. I hope you found a good link here to log in. You can watch this live webinar in parallel on our LinkedIn event page, as well as on our YouTube channel. And I think we are 1 minute past 4 here in sunny Germany today, and we are going to start our webinar. And people who will join later would be able also to watch the recording, and the recording will be also available to you after the event. So if you missed the beginning few minutes, you can always just rewatch the recording. And also we are going to share recording with all participants today. So topic we are going to talk about today is how to turning the data silos into a trusted AI-ready data products, or actually in a broader scope, we're going to talk and we're going to present today one of the results of our work with one of our customers, actually, on the data strategy and data platform. And this work was actually very kind of sophisticated and turned a lot of additional information and also generated a lot of additional information and also additional projects on this customer, making sure that the data is ready for the consumption in various aspects. We prepared a couple of slides for today. So I hope you can hear me well and you can see me well, as well as the slides here. So we start with just an overall overview, what we're talking when we're talking about data, when we're talking about trust, and when we're talking about AI, especially now. Then we're going to quickly discuss the business case. And the business case is crucial here because every transformational process requires some fundamental question to be answered, like why and what kind of impact we expect. So we're going to dive into this in the business case part. Then we went through the 4 pillars of transformation, which would be definitely will be interesting for a practical, let's say, aspects of what we actually have there and what we need to do and what needs to be implemented. And we also go into the more detailed technical architecture. So meaning that we're going to see how the practical implementations can be done on modern data platforms such as Microsoft Fabric, such as Databricks, and kind of do-it-yourself open source. And last but not least, we also give you a quick overview of like a practical roadmap, how you can do that in your own organization, in your own environment, and then also some additional resources will be provided moving forward. So without further ado, maybe just a short presentation or short introduction of myself. So my name is Renzo Bayrov. I'm one of the founders of Revos AI. Revos is a German company. We are started in 2023. So we will going to celebrate the 3rd year in 2026 for our company. We are a startup, but we are not new in this data area. I'm working in the data area over the last 25 years. And Revos is actually my second company. So the first company we founded in 2012 and exited successfully 5 years ago. And the working in the area of data and application integration already for 25 years. With Revos, actually, we are very honored to host and operate data of over 100 customers and 120 customers at the moment. And we are looking into a good, let's say, set of data and also set of our experience and exercise, which we are working with companies like, for example, Quantum Systems or Volkswagen or Kurban Group or Wolters Kluwer. And these are all the customers which we successfully work so far. And really excited to share our learning from that project, from our also product development in this presentation. Interesting facts about Gartner predictions. I think Gartner is a very well known name here in the industry. That Gartner predicted that 60% of the projects will actually fail, and like AI projects will fail because of the data quality or lack of particular data which will be suitable for AI. We hear very frequently in very different aspects and very different projects which we work on about AI hallucinations, and this is a very, very well-known problem at the moment. But the solution for this problem, and solution especially in terms of what kind of measures we can take, is essentially driven around the data quality, but also the data consistency. So, for example, if we're talking about the modern data architecture, the first problem which we see is definitely the data silos, where each department has its own, let's say, system of record, which deviates from the different departments' data, which leads to very inconsistent metrics. So multiple departments can have, in the bigger companies, may speak about the same metrics by name, but completely different values, a completely different data, which lead in the fact, in the end, to a lot of manual work and manual reporting. And this is also what we see in many different situations, also in many different customers for us. So there's definitely wasted a lot of engineering time. So there's a lost revenue opportunities here and there. And last but not least, maybe the most underestimated problem, or most underestimated by value problem, is wrong data, wrong decisions based on the wrong data, or actually missing data. So the data-driven decision is a crucial aspect of modern companies, and also companies which are working in the age of AI today. But this skill needs an investment. The skill needs a training, and also the necessary infrastructure within the company. Within Revos, actually, we did a short analysis of our customer base, and also to the broader customers in our like high-tech industry. And we have seen that the customers who are adopting data-driven decisions, they definitely grow faster. They have a much higher net revenue retention. So net revenue retention is like a cumulative KPI, which also signals that customer growth or revenue growth, as well as taking into account the revenue churn. We see a much higher pipeline velocity, where pipeline velocity is let's say a sales efficiency metric, which signals the quicker let's say time to value for the end customers, and quicker close rates of the sales deals, and significantly less churn in this area. But we can also give you some more interesting examples, and this example is based on one of our customer projects, which we did with a fintech company. It's actually like a software service company with a considerable market share especially in the Netherlands and Benelux markets. And we did a lot of analysis for the value and also the business case for a structured data platform. We did a very structured set of interviews with many different parts of the company. So, for example, we spoke with a sales team, we spoke with the finance team, with marketing teams, and identified the key stakeholders who would benefit from a solid data strategy and solid data platform. And as you can see here in this overview, I'm sorry, it's a little bit too much information for one slide, but we just wanted to visualize that the usage of the consistent data is widely spread across almost every part of organization. So every team within the product, within the sales, within the go-to-market, within the marketing, or even admins or product developers, highly benefiting from a consistent data, and highly benefiting from, let's say, a self-service data access to the data. And during our evaluation, we went through identifying a measurable impact and measurable outcomes of this data strategy. And we can split them into two different parts. So very high perspective, high level. We have seen the top line and the bottom line impacts of the strategic approach to the data management, and also the a consistent data strategy. And you can see here the security risks played a huge role. So the poor data strategy or poor data platform, meaning a lot of manual work, and manual work meaning errors. And these errors can be pretty significant in terms of impact if we consider some data protection or data privacy violations, which can be just happened by error. And every manual step, for example, in data sharing or data interexchange with the customers, especially in the fintech sector, where there's a lot of regulations, also a lot of very, very high requirements on compliance, it could mean a lot of damage. The speed to market is especially crucial also for, let's say, bigger companies. It's no secret that the bigger companies needs to have some challenges in innovation and also the let's say product development speeds frequently. So spending time wisely is especially important there for sure. And also in go-to-market and sales, marketing, customer success areas, we have seen a significant improvements or significant savings. For example, up to the 2 full-time equivalents saved on the sales operational roles, as well as half a person on automated processes can be saved through the standardized and much more fundamental approach to the data management. And this is actually how the structure should look like for a comprehensive data strategy and enabling the data, a modern data platform, and rollout of modern data platform in organizations nowadays. So the first step is definitely the unification, where we need to make sure that various data silos which exist at the moment are available for let's say processing and also consistent integration into the common more or less data lake. Standardization is an essential step, otherwise it will be very, very challenging to speak about the same concepts moving forward for different departments, different parts of organization. And user enablement is a very crucial moment, because the value, as you have seen before, the value which is realized from the data is only realized when it's used. And when it is not used, it will be definitely like wasted efforts for sure. And then also we suggest also the specific shipment state, where the, let's say, the data infrastructure is treated more in a productified way. And you're going to see it later in the slides how that the whole story actually should work together. But the first step on this journey is definitely very challenging. So the data silos exist there as there's so many years, and actually the data silo slide you see right now, I could with the same success showed you 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So the story actually didn't change much here, but just the number of systems increased significantly. Even smaller size companies nowadays are using increasingly wide variety of application, and a huge number of these applications actually adding every day to the landscape. And that's basically the one of the challenges here which we see. So the data needs to be collected or connected into a common data lake using medallion architecture, which we're going to see later. And the data lake is like a modern storage, which is very efficient and also very cost efficient too. So it's allow us to store a huge amounts of data in very well structured form, and also keep the readability and also the structured characteristics of modern databases still accessible through the various different technological choices, which we will see later. The data lake would store more or less as like a read-only from consumer perspective storage, where the data can be stored and analyzed later. And this is a necessary fundamental step for the second step, which would be to create a common definition of a commonly used metrics. So this step is actually something not very common, or it was not very common if we look in 5 years from now, or maybe 10 years back, because of the development of the technological infrastructure. However, nowadays the metric store is not something unusual, and it's actually a very commonly used term and a concept which plays a central role, and we believe the role of the metric store is going to increase in future significantly. But the metric store is more or less a common library or definition of what a business or people working with data understand under the specific terms. For example, churn or annual recurrent revenue, or revenues, gross revenue, net revenue, and so on and so on. And this could be surprisingly simple as well as surprisingly complicated. So, for example, even when we're speaking about a customer, many different departments may have a different understanding of who is a customer or how does the customer actually looks like in the digital world. Therefore, even the number of customers can deviate significantly, depends on whom you ask. So creating a common definition, a common KPI of a common terms which are used in the business across the company is a crucial moment. Otherwise, the next steps of the application could fail. And as you can see, this metric store also allow a consistent use of the data later on. So doesn't matter how we use the data later. Are we using it in part of like business intelligence tools? Are we using it as an AI agent? We do not actually have any problems with that, as the metrics is defined in the same space, in the same definition. 1 second. So, and then basically the next would be the self-service empowerment. And this is, as I said, already a crucial step in the journey. Otherwise, the adoption of this new data platform would be very, very low. And we also, from the user perspective, we see the changes, let's say, in the usage patterns, right? The modern enterprise users are so used to a consumer easy experience where a lot can be done in the self-service mode. And this is definitely also needs to be expected from the individual users, from the individual contributors who need this data at the time to decide and do data-driven decisions. So the old approach here, which is, I think, very nicely named a data breadline, where the business users just queue up and wait until the BI team will deliver the answers they want, is definitely something from the past. And by establishing a common ground for the data and a common definition of KPI with metric store, the solution is already there to enable a self-service access to the data without, let's say, without much limitations on compliance or data privacy side, because the metric store or semantic layer, which is powering the metric store, has a very good understanding of that. And additionally to that, the consumers of the data are no longer only humans, right? And there are definitely various ways to consume the data, but also AI agents who requires the data to create a hallucination-free responses, and also making sure that actions and automations which are done by the AI agents comply with actually the overall data perspective. And this self-service experience is definitely something also very new, and there are a lot of innovation which has just happened over the last couple of years here and there, but more or less through the automated data definition, as data collection and data definition, but also the automated data lineage and compliance, the self-service access to the data can gain a much more popularity, and also can be a much more frictionless, even in controlled environment with high degree of compliance. And last step here on this journey is for us also very, very essential, because we need to treat the data and metrics as products and apply the regular, more like a software development aspect of software development approaches here, to making sure that the life cycle of our data products or metrics products is controlled and also managed properly. Before, a lot of teams doing that were failing because the activities were not rounded up in a proper lifecycle management. So making sure that the products, like data products and metric products, are properly versioned, properly controlled from, let's say, continuous integration, continuous delivery perspective, as well as deprecated and upgraded if necessary, would be a crucial part to making sure that there's a trust and reliance on this data across the organizations, independent of how this data is used, being it like a individual person working with data in Excel, or an AI agent as a part of like a bigger agentic workflow automation. And technically speaking, there is definitely some good approaches which were developed over time, and one of them is what's called a medallion architecture, medallion partner pattern here. The medallion architecture, medallion pattern is crucial kind of, but also very simple abstraction here, giving like Olympic medals, where the bronze layer is like the lowest layer on the data quality. And through very simple abstraction like this 3-layer picture, when we implementing this, we just wanted to signal the data readiness and data quality characteristics. So the data readiness for the bronze layer is practically more or less one-on-one copy of the raw data, which is coming from various different systems, where the silver layer is the data which is more refined, ensuring the integrity and also referential consistency of the data. So you could imagine when we have data from a CRM coming into the same store next to the data from ERP system, the customer identifiers, customer names, company names, as well as orders can be different because of the various historical reasons, or particularly there like synchronization errors. And the silver layer just make it the whole picture more consistent, and making sure that the quality of data is increasing with the additional layer. And the gold layer, or actually gold layers, there could be potentially multiple layers of there, could be pivoted or transformed version of the same data from the silver layer, which is more suitable for particular analysis. So here, for example, you may think about like a customer churn analysis is definitely should definitely involve some parts of like product usage data, where the customer revenue analysis may be lacking this information or doesn't need this information to be consistent and also valuable for the consumptions. So the gold layer can be slightly different and transformed depending on the use case we are talking about. one important part of the story, and also one of the very interesting technological advancements we have seen in the later years, is definitely the automated data lineage. So the automated data lineage, as well as more descriptive ways how we transform and declare metrics and data transformations, give us an additional capabilities to really deeper understand where the data is coming from, how the data is coming together the way we see it right now, in a gold layer or in a silver layer, as well as making sure that particular data types like personal identifiable information or particular data, let's say security tags, does not expose to where it should not be. And the technological advancements here, also not only, let's say, as traditional, but also like machine learning or AI advancements, definitely give us an additional toolkit to create an automated ways to figure out the data sources, as well as the data transformation rules, which makes a lot of data policy definitions much simpler. And this also gives, again, another capability to enable the self-service data access, or, for example, the data sharing with the customers or suppliers or partner situation, possible and very valuable. So, for example, in one of our projects, we have seen that exposing like a customer data to the customers themselves in more automated manner generated a significant upside and increased the stickiness of the product significantly, meaning that the churn went down, especially on the bigger customer accounts who have a lot of data. And the automated data lineage capabilities we have at the moment gives us an additional let's say, technological advantages here, without actually slowing us too much down on the compliance and data security part. Organizational structure of this whole story is definitely also very important, right? So there are definitely some specific know-how required to create a successful, or to run the successful data transformation project. And many times their know-how is not well distributed, especially in the bigger organizations. So we have seen some cases where the data platform team was more like a centralized and central from the whole organization, was serving various internal customers as well as external customers there. But many times the expertise of particular domain is distributed and cannot be centralized. So, for example, you can imagine like people in a sales department would be the best people to ask why the CRM domain model looks like it is, and the support and ticketing systems are definitely in the ownership of support and maybe customer success department, where the domain model there could be significantly affected by the internal processes. So the best way to structure it, and we have seen it actually working pretty well, through a mixture of like a centralized expertise, maybe like a data competency center, which assist and support various internal stakeholders on, let's say, implementing the technical or overcoming the technical challenges, where the data ownership is pretty much distributed across the organizations, and many people are, let's say, taking like a role in the whole data story, enabling the broader usage of the data within the organization. And moving forward to a particular technological examples. So you may have heard about like Microsoft Fabric. It's one of the leading data application platforms at the moment, which is coming from Microsoft, and it's actually very, very, very promising. Also a product under active development at the moment, we should say. Microsoft had a long time track of record with its very prominent products like Microsoft Excel, which is definitely very widely used in the industry and more or less a de facto standard for spreadsheet programs at the moment. Building up on this was the product created called Power BI, which is, I think, also one of the very good business intelligence and visualization product with definitely very attractive functionality, but also with the pricing. Fabric is more or less an extension of that. So Microsoft Fabric is building up and including the Power BI, which you can see here on the left in the picture. And one of the unique capabilities of Fabric, for example, compared to other professional Microsoft products, is that Fabric is a software as a service product and not platform as a service product. The details could be very technical, but long story short, it's actually doesn't give much of the infrastructural aspects to the users, but rather tries to convince users with a very product consumer-like look, which is actually pretty solid. So the teams, we have seen teams who are less technical, let's say more visual, and that are used to operate in the Microsoft universe. They find Fabric much simpler to adopt and also much simpler to understand. With Fabric, one of the key promises is copyless architecture, so that the data does not actually created or copied too many times across the cycle where we ingest the data and then transform the data and expose it to business intelligence. And through one lake, it's actually pretty good fundamentals here to achieve that. Direct Lake for the Power BI is also very interesting capability where the let's say prior challenge where the data needs to be restructured to be effectively visualized is solved on the storage layer. So the visualization and also data analysis can be much quicker and much less expensive for the users. And needless to say, the AI capabilities of Microsoft, where Microsoft is definitely cooperating very closely with OpenAI. With OpenAI, is actually also with a Copilot and all the models which are available, represent a very, very good capabilities for the customers. And what's interesting to see in Microsoft Fabric is that the future development, because Microsoft is actively developing the product, so there are many parts of the products which are still in preview phase or may not have reached, let's say, the ultimate production grade you could expect from Microsoft. However, the platform is pretty complete, and apart from some more like developer-focused functionalities which are implemented elsewhere better, represent a very, very good and solid product, which definitely can work for many, many scenarios and many cases. However, the next product which we see adopted very frequently, especially in this area of modern data platforms, is a product from company Databricks. So Databricks has a very solid open source heritage. So just like with Microsoft, when products are used here or there, you will see the either user interfaces or APIs from open source product and open source foundation. And this is actually a very good fact, to be honest, because the open source platforms or open source standards establish a common ground for interoperability, which makes totally sense, especially when we're talking about modern world where the data sovereignty and data interoperability requirements are paramount. However, the Databricks is definitely not compared to, for example, Microsoft or Google, doesn't have like a hyperscaler affinity. So the Databricks platform works equally well on all hyperscalers, like on Azure or Amazon or Google Cloud. but the Databricks platform is more technically, let's say, more suitable for more technical users. So one particular part, for example, where they deviate from Microsoft Fabric experience, despite the fact that one could potentially actually even map products one-on-one from the Microsoft universe or the Databricks, is continuous integration, continuous delivery, where the people who does not have like a direct experience with Git or branching may find some things difficult to do in Databricks part, where it's much easier on Microsoft Fabric. However, the contrary is also true. So the continuous integration, and especially treating data or metrics as a product with a product lifecycle, with all the things which are associated with that, is actually much more straightforward and stable and simply implemented on Databricks compared to the Microsoft Fabric. The Databricks also represents a very interesting foundation on terms of the data. So if for Microsoft, the OneLake was built on top of a Delta file format, for the Databricks also support the same file format. So with the technical implementation, we see very frequently that this Delta file format is more or less a de facto standard. But moving forward, the same features and same functionality can also be built on top of like bring a do-it-yourself stack or open source stack. As you can see on the picture on the right, there are much smaller icons and a much bigger number of icons. So there are also definitely the, let's say, bigger variety of vendors, and we could not actually cover them today in our presentation. But the open source way gives, and I would claim, equal capabilities, or rather almost equal capabilities compared to the commercial stack from Databricks or from Microsoft Fabric or for Google, as well as equal, let's say, performance characteristics as well, and but at much lower price. And here with open source, we could particularly see from a Databricks perspective, for example, more or less one-on-one mapping from Databricks products to open source products, which again shows the heritage of Databricks in open source and also active contribution to open source. But for the open source here, for the open source way, it's definitely more rather a choice of companies where the money could be invested wisely. So the open source stack would be definitely cheaper in operations. It will be much less expensive in terms of licensing costs, as well as, let's say, overall total cost of ownership. However, the engineering capacity, or let's say an engineering know-how, which comes hand in hand with the higher salaries for engineers, or higher costs for engineers, would be required to maintain it. So we have seen in some scenarios the decision makers were trading, let's say, engineering budget against licensing budget to see where they want to invest more. So for the open source way, it would be definitely more suitable for control and maximizing the ownership. And here, the particular compliance regulations, as well as cultural preferences, or let's say risk aversity, could play a huge role, especially now as we see so many, let's say, so many transatlantic connections are breaking because of various political reasons. The data sovereignty as well as technological sovereignty can play a significantly different role as it were, I don't know, a couple of years ago, even 12 months ago. There could be completely different, let's say, risks which are perceived by the customers doing the decision. But one way or another, it's important to understand and know that all platforms being Fabric or Databricks or Snowflake or Google GCP, they offer compatible or equal capabilities, and everything can be also built on top of like bring your own do-it-yourself open source stack. So if we are talking about more practical recommendations, so how would we do this project like this for the data implementation, for the data platform implementation? The first thing where we would start is definitely the involvement of the stakeholders. So the stakeholders and broader stakeholders involvement is crucial for the project success. You have seen the data is collected, accumulated, analyzed in various parts of modern companies, and also various departments of modern companies. So ensuring the involvement of all stakeholders is crucial for the project success. The project itself may also be rather a smaller scope, assuming the off-the-shelf or do-it-yourself platforms are available and can be actually installed rather quickly. So the Fabric is fully software as a service application, so it can be started with like few mouse clicks, where Databricks or open source is maybe a bit lengthier. However, the connecting the first key sources would be like a definitely very good step, and ensuring that these key sources can be also say picked from various parts of the company would be also a good validation for the overall project success. And implementing the first pipeline actually does not take too much. So we expect like in a middle-sized company, we're talking in weeks and not in months for the first, let's say, end-to-end data and metrics products. The second step would be crucial for adoption and for also internal usage of the result, because once the products and the metrics is there, we need to educate and also enable access to this for the stakeholders who actually need this data. This process is necessarily to support through a change management project usually, and a lot of education, a lot of, let's say, teaching and creating an awareness is definitely an important step here. In parallel to education, it's also necessary to explain and remove some fears in data access, especially for rather regulated or for environments where there's high compliance requirements available. So here it's definitely the ensuring the access to the data as well as removing the fears of data usage crucial for the success. Therefore, you can see there the expected timeline here is definitely also maybe a month or two. And last but not least, the data quality and ensuring the data quality is absolutely crucial in creating trust. Otherwise, the whole data initiative could be, let's say, seen as non-reliable or faulty. And again, through the involvement of all the stakeholders of various different departments who would agree on a common definition of a metrics, this would be definitely a crucial step to making sure that these metrics are actually executed or the data quality is where it should be. And then we also have definitely the more innovative part, where after the foundational data is established, we have end-to-end scenario and metric, and we created a self-service access. We can think and work on creating the innovation value out of data. So the data today is not only used by humans, right? It's also used by AI systems, it's used by automation, it's used by data activation. So there's a lot of use cases here and there which can generate a significant value. And in this expanding and automation step, we can also see that the appearance of real-time data would be critical. So for example, people are so used to access the data, but this data update could have seen as too lengthy or too infrequent. we see that, let's say, the appetite is increased after the first successes can be visible and accessed, and also creating more like an internal data marketplace could be a good thing for further building up on the first successes, so that the data is seen and used as an artifact which can be consumed through all the organization, and various users can also access those data in a very similar way, being it human beings or automated systems or AI. And also, one of the recommendations which we also do frequently is that the teams on this path should not try to go too fast. I know that there are so many data silos out there. There are so many data use cases that could be implemented, but fixing one step at a time, fixing one KPI at a time, fixing one report at a time, one automation at a time is definitely crucial for highlighting the success and also the delivering value quicker, instead of like a lengthy multi-year data standardization projects that were done maybe previously. Iterating step by step, delivering the value end to end quicker in short iterations, and creating the value consistently over the, let's say, faster iterations is definitely a crucial aspect here, making sure that the whole project also perceived as success in the overall organization. So we will have the time for questions here, although I would say we will stop the recording and stop the streaming at the moment for the questions, as we are still collecting them, and also this will be also not necessary for the overall recording here. I will make sure that if you have any additional questions after the webinar or when you're watching this recording, do not hesitate to contact us. You can find us at revos.ai, or you can also schedule a discovery call, and making sure that we can also provide you some additional information on something which I just missed in this presentation or was not understandable enough. We also have created an implementation checklist with maybe more additional information and links, and also an overview of additional resources. We are going to distribute it after the webinar, most probably today or early morning tomorrow. And yes, that's actually it for today. Thank you very much for attending our finding time. So we almost we're almost 50 minutes here in, and appreciate your attention, and looking forward to see you, either speak to you soon or see you soon, maybe in person also.